Hello, everyone, and thanks so much for joining the Center for Financial Social Work this afternoon for this most informative and interesting webinar to begin January 2017. And our topic, financial infidelity, divorce proofing your marriage. And we have such a wonderful presenter with us today. And we're so happy to have Nancy Hattrick with us. You can see here she is the owner of Smart Divorce Solutions. She's out in sunny Arizona, although we're located here in the mountains of western North Carolina. And even though it was 6 degrees last weekend and we had half a foot of snow, today it's sunny and 60 degrees. So that's the weather forecast for you. So Nancy is also a certified divorce financial analyst, and she's going to tell you more about herself and her work when we turn it over to her. But we do know that every time we do a webinar, we always have new people joining us. And so we do a few slides to explain what financial social work is, why it matters, and what it's all about. But we're going to start off. We try to make these sessions as interactive as possible. So we're going to start off with a poll. And our first poll is who is in our audience? And I'm launching that poll. And you can see we've listed a number of professions. And if you don't fit in any of those, feel free to go ahead down to the question box and use it as an answer box. And a good percentage of you I see are in the other. So let's see. Let's see. CDFA. Someone is asking about CEUs. We don't offer CEUs because they are very time consuming and expensive to attain. And then we could not offer all of these free monthly webinars at no charge. And that's something we really like doing for our community. So, over 80% of you have voted. I will go ahead and count this down and close it out. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and I'll share with you. Very interesting. Okay, so very interesting. And the only others that I'm seeing is housing counselor, social service supervisor, community action. Okay. Oh, a credit union. Great, great. Literacy and member solutions. Oh, collections. CPA. Okay. Consumer economic educator. Well, we're glad to have all of you. Thank you for joining us. So let's close that poll. Okay. Okay, give me 1 second. Okay, I got it. Okay, so next. Okay, so let me just briefly explain financial social work to you. Financial problems are about more than money. I think we get very bogged down in the dollars and cents of financial wellness and financial problems. But from our perspective at Center for Financial Social Work, it's our client's relationship with money and with self. That's where it all begins. And that's what drives financial behavior. And financial behavior is how we earn, spend, save, share, and borrow. And those 5 components determine our financial circumstances. It is as simple and as complex as that. And it took me many years to come up with this little formula. And so it's really where about the financial behavioral change. The financial social work is a behavioral model because that's where change happens. So dollars and cents don't make financial choices. It's our inner money self. And we all have an inner money self. Take a moment and think about that. And perhaps you want to say hello to your inner money self and get to know that inner money self, because that's where your financial choices are being made. So financial circumstances originate from within the money self, which includes your thoughts, feelings, and actions with your money and with yourself. And you can see this quote, which is one of my favorites. Money is not the problem. It's our relationship with money that's the problem, how we think, feel, and behave with our money. So financial behavioral change requires a healthier money self, because someone with a healthier money self engages more readily, is more hopeful, is more eager to change, and more prepared to succeed. This is true. So these are just some of the components of how we approach that through financial social work. It isn't strictly the dollars and cents, budgeting, net worth. We're looking to build financial confidence, set financial and personal boundaries, address forgiveness for past mistakes, and share help and hope, and help people find direction and be more positive. You, those are just a few of the ways, because our goal is to help each person create inner financial peace and improve his or her financial well-being. So the model looks like this. It is about ongoing education, financial education, motivation, validation, and support, because after 2 decades, I know that these are the components that contribute to sustainable long-term financial behavioral change. The model is interactive, introspective, and strengths-based. It works individually and or with groups, and many financial therapists use our model. So we are going to turn it over to Nancy as soon as we finish this poll. How familiar are you with the concept of financial infidelity? So let's open that poll. Here we go. I've had some conversations with people this week around this topic and what it means and how they've come to find out about it. Okay. So this is a great audience. We have such great attendees because you participate, and it's so much better that way. And you're going to enjoy Nancy's part, which we're just about to get to. So I'll go ahead and count it down. We're almost at 80%, and we'll go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and we got to 78% of you voting. 80. Okay, thanks. I like 80%. Okay, so let me share it with you. So about a fifth of you are not familiar with it. Well, you will be by the time we finish today. And over a quarter of you, just a little bit. Well, that's why you're here. I'm really glad that you're here. And I'm going to go ahead and hide that poll. And I am going to turn this over to Nancy and hope that she tells you more about herself, because I think her work is just fascinating. Okay, change presenter. Okay. Hi, Nancy.
All right. Hello, hello. Thank you so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be here. Are you ready for me to just run with it?
Just run with it.
Okay, fantastic. Well, thank you all so much for attending today's webinar. it was very interesting. As Rita was going through the first slides, I realized what a perfect fit this material is for this group, because financial infidelity is really just one of those consequences of an unhealthy inner money soul that needs to be dealt with. And we're going to talk a lot about, what causes this to happen and what's going on psychologically, and what are the different ways that you can recognize it. So I think this content is going to be really perfect for the group. So we're going to talk about, well, what exactly is financial infidelity? Let's give it a definition. We're going to look at several of the red flags and the causes of where does this behavior emanate from and what brings it into relationships. And then what are the results? What are the things that can happen when people find themselves in these situations? And then probably most importantly is prevention. What can you do in your own relationships to make sure that this doesn't happen? And then the different professional support that's available, which it sounds like a huge number of the participants on this webinar today, you are the folks that are providing the professional support to folks that go through this. So I really thank you so much for being able to do that, because it's so critical. So let me give you an idea of my first experience with this. I've been a financial advisor for 20 years, and in 2007 went through my own less than optimal divorce, which in my situation, money issues were really not a big part of my divorce. But it was through my divorce that I became very, very passionate about helping couples go through the divorce process in a kinder, gentler, much more affordable way, keeping people out of court if at all possible. And so it was at that time that I pursued my certified divorce financial analyst credential, and I started my own company, Smarter Divorce Solutions, where I work with couples going through the divorce process. Well, early in my career, I worked with Dick and Jane and was helping them, and obviously I've changed the names, and was helping them navigate the waters of their divorce. They had been married for 38 years. You heard me right, 38 years. They were both right around 60 years of age. Approximately 10 years earlier, the husband had owned his own business, and he had a company that did sound and video for hotel events. Used to be that hotels didn't do that themselves. They had outsourced companies that they would hire to do all the sound and video for conferences. And that was his business, and it was for all one hotel chain. Well, literally overnight, the hotel said, we're going to bring it in-house. Thanks, we don't need you anymore. And his very successful company disappeared. Well, he had always very much enjoyed investing. And his wife at the time had always been a homemaker and had stayed home with the kids. And as, at this stage in her life, she was working part-time as just an assistant to a senior citizen nearby. And a couple days a week, she'd take them grocery shopping and things like that. He had always handled all the money and very much enjoyed investing. And so he decided that he was going to spend the rest of his working years trading the stock market and learning how to trade stock options as a job. So he took an online course, bought a new computer and 3 monitors, and he set up this big office, and he started trading options every day for anywhere from 8 to 10 hours. And every day he would come out of the office around dinner time, and Jane would ask him, "How did you do today, dear?" And every day he would say, "Not too bad. Some winners, some losers, not too bad." And this continued for the next 10 years. And during those 10 years, they took 2 trips a year to Europe. They continued doing improvements on their $1 million home and living the lifestyle that they had always enjoyed. But very gradually over those 10 years, Dick became more and more distant, and he would share less and less information with Jane about the results of his trading, even to the point where she would say, "How did you do today, dear?" And he would say, "Don't worry about it. Why are you so concerned?" And she would be like, "Well, what in the world?" Their relationship really started to deteriorate as he became more defensive and angry. And she came to see me for a just-in-case analysis of her finances in the event that they divorced. And she was very, very frightened because she had never handled money. She really didn't even know what she was looking at. And she had spent several months squirreling away every financial document that she could get her hand on, from tax returns, some tax returns that were 15 years old, to bank statements and brokerage statements and anything she could find. And she showed up in my office with a stack of papers that was about a foot tall. And I started sorting through it as she was telling me the story of their lives. And I was then in the unfortunate situation of having to break the truth to her, that over the last 10 years, Dick had not made as much money as she had thought. In fact, he had made zero, nothing. His total return for the entire 10-year period was actually a slight loss. So what had they been living on? How were they affording these trips to Europe? Well, Dick had been slowly depleting their retirement savings to the tune of $1.5 million. They were down to the last $100,000 in their investment account, and the only other asset that they had left was the house. Needless to say, Jane was devastated. The betrayal that she felt over the extended dishonesty was perhaps even more difficult than if he had been having an affair. The trust was damaged so badly that she immediately filed for divorce to protect herself from any further losses of his. And it was that situation that really opened my eyes to just how devastating financial infidelity can be. Put very simply, financial infidelity is lying or deception about how, when, or why money is being earned or spent. Betrayals of trust from your spouse are always emotionally devastating, but when the infidelity has to do with money, the results can crush a lot more than your feelings. You can see this chart here gives you an idea of a poll that was done in 2016, the Harris poll for the National Endowment for Financial Education. And it gives you an idea of specific types of financial infidelity that the recipients of this poll admitted to. They also found that 42% of Americans, up from 33% only 2 years ago, admitted lying to their spouses about money, and another third reported having been deceived. Among those that were impacted by financial infidelity, 67% said that the deception led to an argument, and 42% said it eroded the trust in their relationships. The most alarming statistic is that 16% of these respondents said that the money lie led to divorce. Betrayal regarding money can be just as damaging as other kinds of cheating. As you can see from the chart, the most common lie is hiding money that the other spouse is not aware of. And that's closely followed by hiding a minor purchase. And I think that's real common, especially among women. I mean, let's admit it. Women, we can go shopping and we might buy a pair of shoes and just kind of tuck it back in the closet and pretend it never got there, just because we don't want to really have to deal with it. So I'd like to at this point run a survey question. I'd like to know how many of you on this call today have personally experienced any kind of financial infidelity in your own relationships. So the question here is, how big a role? Whoops. I think I might have launched the wrong one, but that's okay. How big a role do you think financial infidelity plays in your own relationship? None, some, too much, or you're not sure? Very interesting. Wait till you see these results, folks. All right, we are just at the 80% mark. I'm going to close the poll in just a couple seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Check that out. 63% admit that there is some level of financial infidelity in your relationship. I'm happy to see that a third of you believe there is none, and then the rest are not sure. That's a pretty staggering number. And I think the question here is how much, and trying to get a handle on maybe the impact that it might have on your relationship. So let's delve a little bit deeper into this. Some of the red flags that you're going to want to watch for. And, the title of this is Divorce Proofing Your Marriage. But honestly, this information, I think, is most critically important to couples that are dating. This is information our children need to have. I can't tell you how many young couples I talk to that have been in a relationship for sometimes years and actually get married having never had a conversation about money. And I just can't, it staggers me. If some of these things were put into place for new relationships, the success rates of marriage, I think, would skyrocket. So getting some financial education prior to marriage, I think, is just so, so important. So top 10 red flags. Number 1, changing that topic away from money. If you ask a question about your finances and the response is to change the subject and say, don't worry about it, I have it handled. When a simple inquiry about unaccounted cash withdrawals is consistently met with the runaround, hey, I don't ask you how you spend your money, or I'm a grown-up, I don't need to answer to you. Or even something like, oh, honey, we're having such a great night. Can't we talk about that later? Those are major red flags. Number 2, if somebody becomes defensive, if the response to a money question is outsized compared to that question, do they become angry? Do they try to make you feel like you had no right to ask that question? Major red flag. Number 3, handling the finances alone. It's fine for one person in your relationship to take the responsibility for bill paying, but open sharing of information is essential. What is it that they don't want you to see? Number 4, if your partner is willing to lie to others about money, that is definitely a red flag that they will also lie to you. Do you have a partner who inflates their salary to other people, who maybe exaggerates about what vacations cost or things like that? Be aware of those kinds of tendencies. Number 5, when you start dating someone, man, the first thing, I learned this a long time ago, first thing you should do is meet that person's parents, because that will tell you so much. Rita mentioned it early, right, that so many of our money attitudes and our money beliefs are formed in childhood. So if you are around your partner's parents and you see them modeling an unhealthy money approach, have you seen them fighting about finances? Has your partner ever mentioned that his parents used to lie to each other or hide purchases when they were young? Those kinds of things really speak loudly to the early money messages that were given to this person and how they may show up in their own lives. Number 6, if they seem to be spending in excess of what they earn, it's usually a red flag that there's credit cards somewhere you don't know about. Are there lots of new possessions? Are you going on big trips? Are they all of a sudden very generous with you and you can't figure out how they could possibly afford it? One of 2 things is happening. Either they've got credit cards you don't know about, or they're making money somewhere that you don't know about, both of which are problems. Number 7, trust your instincts. If you sense that something's going on, it probably is. And, this is one area, too, where I'm going to say, listen to the people that are close to you, because there is a reason that we have the old saying that love is blind. I can tell you in my marriage, infidelity was a factor, and I was absolutely blind to it because it just wasn't something that was going to be part of my universe. Other people saw it. So, pay attention to what the people close to you tend to observe. Number 8, notice breaks in routine or attitudes. If someone is losing a lot of money gambling or they're getting buried in debt, they become fearful and defensive, and that's exactly what was happening to Dick. Especially for men. If men, well, this is true for all of us. This isn't even a gender thing. If you are in debt or you have credit card debt, It triggers fear and insecurity about being found out, and shame. We carry a lot of shame about not being able to handle money properly. Do they, because they suddenly get worried about financial hardship. Now, I think it's different for men and women. Men tend to have stress about being the provider, whereas women have stress about, being found out or being insecure about, having not done it well. So there's different reasons for that, but those changes in behavior are definitely red flags. Number 9, internet gambling and online shopping are a click away. If you notice that the browser history is empty, someone deleted it. And if you don't know how to check that on your computer and you're suspicious, Google it. How to find my browser history. And it's very easy to check that. And if it's always empty, something's going on. Number 10, money-related addictions are very, very difficult to overcome. If they slip up, there's embarrassment and guilt. And if they've lied to you before, they're very likely to do it again unless you both get some professional guidance to ensure that the patterns are addressed and resolved in a healthy way. Other signs, these are things that can kind of be off the radar. If you get a letter from your insurance company notifying you that your auto insurance rates went up, usually they don't even tell you why, but it's usually a change in your credit rating. This can be a loud indicator that the other spouse not only has credit cards that you don't know about, but isn't making the payments on time either. If you notice that the Southwest Visa credit card statement that always came every single month and always has, all of a sudden doesn't, beware. Ask about it, of course, but a very common method of financial deception is to have bills sent to the office or to a relative's house so that they aren't discovered. A similar red flag would be if your partner is paranoid about being the only one to get the mail. Or I've seen cases sometimes where somebody's like, don't you dare open mail with my name on it. What's that all about? When you're married, if you're in an intimate relationship with someone, the financial cards need to all be on the table, and you need to be a partnership in all of those ways. Even if you keep your money separate, you still need to be having money meetings about what your financial goals are and how are you, structuring things to make sure that you meet them. When was the last time that you actually saw one of your bank statements? With everything online, every member should have logins and passwords to every account. And if anyone ever refuses to give you that information, that is the major red flag. You should always have access to all your financial information, no matter what. That's an absolutely non-negotiable. Another common practice, especially if there's someone who thinks they may be heading for divorce and they're trying to shore themselves up, is filtering money to family members, sometimes over many, many years, to siphon off a personal nest egg that is separate from the marital assets. If that's happening, and be very aware if they say, well, it's an estate planning tool. I'm doing it for estate planning purposes. Major red flag. Because if anything happens, you're going to be in really bad shape. Other little ones are cash. Some people keep a little cash stash in their house if all of a sudden it goes missing, or if you all of a sudden find out that your name was removed from a credit card. Most credit cards these days are not joint credit cards. Most of them are individual credit cards with an additional signer, which means you might not actually be a joint holder of a credit card. You might only be an additional signer. And it's very easy to just remove that name from someone's credit card. So that would be a big red flag as well. So, why does this happen? Well, part of that survey, and Marian Freestad was a big part of the group that did this. And I love this quote because it's so true. In the United States, talking about money is harder than talking about sex. Freestad also says that the survey answers indicate the deep connection between our financial lives and our view of ourselves. And this goes back to what Rita was talking about in the opening slides. Freestad also says, a relationship to money is complex and often a love-hate relationship. Money is valued certainly for its own sake, as it can help us live a more comfortable life, but it's also measured for its intrinsic value to us as people. Money problems are often not about money, but about other life issues. When people have debt issues, they're spending unconsciously, using money not as a tool, but to escape from problems and create an illusion of comfort and status. Sometimes if you feel like everything in your life is out of control, creating those illusions around you just kind of makes you feel better. Russell Belk is a PhD professor at the University of Utah, and he says that studies have confirmed that our relationship with money is not practical, but emotional. It's a means of self-justification, a way of saying, I'm normal, you're not. Author Molly Triffin discussed the psychological reasons behind these behaviors. Money can be used to offset power imbalances. If one spouse feels controlled by their partner, they may do some secret spending as an act of rebellion. I can't tell you how many times I've seen this. I think this is very, very common with the power imbalances of women and men, and when women feel dominated, that is sometimes the way that they counteract that domination. But psychological theories aside, many Americans gave the answers they did simply because they're lousy at managing their finances and they don't understand the trouble that they're in. Myvesta did a study that found that almost a quarter of Americans don't even look at their credit card statements every month. People don't take good control of their finances, and so they don't always even know what their financial situation is. They're often in denial until there's one event that creates awareness. Either they apply for a credit card and they get turned down, or they go to buy a car and they can't get a loan. When they're up against a wall, reality sets in, and that's typically when you start to see the behavior changes. Many people can't even distinguish financial perception from reality because they simply never learned anything about finance. We don't teach our children about money in this country. I'm thrilled that there are a bunch of organizations now that are trying to fix this. We're trying to get financial education at the high school level. So before kids hit the world, they actually understand about things like compound interest and credit. People are often ashamed of their financial position, and they try to cover it up. It feels like a personal reflection of our self-worth. And I know that that's something that this group is very familiar with. The childhood influences, if you grew up with spenders as models, and then you marry a saver, things can seem totally backwards to you. Maybe you were told that you weren't smart, or you had teachers that made you feel insecure, and spending brings you a sense of self-worth. Understanding your own money style is critical in getting a handle on your money habits. Understanding those styles as a couple will also help you begin the conversations on what kind of financial guidelines need to be in place for the success of your family. Most people will either be spenders, savers, or hoarders. If a spender and a hoarder get together, trouble is sure to follow. So, what are your first memories of money? I have to share mine because this was so unusual at the time, and it really was instrumental in forming who I am today. When I was 5 years old, I'm one of four girls in 5 years, boom, 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 and I was number 3. So when I was 5 years old, my mother used to call family meetings. My dad was never involved. It was just mom and the 4 girls. So we'd all have to come sit in the living room, and my mom calls a family meeting, and she brings out a 32-gallon Rubbermaid garbage can. And she says, okay. And she gets a piece of paper, and in a big black Sharpie, she writes on it 10 cents. And she plasters that piece of paper on the front of that Rubbermaid garbage can. And she said, starting today, if your toys or your books are left on the floor, I'm going to be picking them up and putting them in this Rubbermaid garbage can. And if you want that back, it's going to cost you 10 cents. Oh my gosh, well, you would have thought, this is going to be World War III. Me and my sisters were like, what are you talking about? I only get 25 cents a week allowance. She was like, yeah, that's right. So I guess you'll have to plan for that, won't you? And so I learned very, very young the value of a dime and the connection between my choices about the world and the value of money. I continue to be surprised that women in general still shy away from money issues. I hear things like, oh, I'm not very good with money. I'd rather let him handle it. I spend the money and he manages it. These are old stereotypes that women must break out of, and soon. In less than 20 years, more than 60% of our nation's investable net worth will be in the control of women. And now is the time for women to step up and become good stewards of the wealth that we are creating, and we are creating wealth. Knowledge is power, and it will go a long way in preventing financial infidelity from happening to you. Get involved and know what's going on in your financial lives. The rise of ATMs has made money seem less concrete. It's a more ethereal entity. People don't keep close track the way we did when we used to use checkbooks. And here's another quote that I found. I'm not sure who this came from, but with debit cards, it's easier to spend like there's no tomorrow and not worry about it until there's a problem. As we've gone from the gold standard to the paper standard money to electronic, it's become more abstract and easier to spend. When we swipe a card, it doesn't even seem real. And so it's very, very easy to just get carried away. Whenever I counsel a couple who's struggling with overspending, I always suggest that they start with 1 to 3 months on the envelope method. And this is something that I think may have actually been originated with Dave Ramsey, but I'm not positive about that. But basically, it's a very simple concept that they track their spending for 1 month to get an idea of what it is they actually spend money on. But then for all their discretionary spending, okay, so go ahead and pay the mortgage, pay the utility bills, but for groceries, for eating out, for trips to Target, you're going to create a specific amount of money. Okay, so the budget this month for restaurants is $100. You're going to get $100 in cash and put it in an envelope labeled restaurants. You're going to have an envelope labeled groceries with a certain amount of cash in it. You're going to have an envelope labeled clothing with a certain amount of cash in it. And I cannot tell you how this brings back consciousness to spending. And it's a wonderful exercise for children. I had a mom with young children, and when they went to, because the kids wanted to go to McDonald's every single night. And so she would say, well, check the envelope. And the kids would say, well, there's $20. And she would say, well, that has to last for 3 more weeks. So do you want to go to McDonald's today, or do you want to save that to go to the movies on Saturday? Oh. And so then the kids got involved in the decision making. But all of a sudden it became very, very real. I actually did this with a client of mine who was an attorney, made over $250,000 a year, and could not get a handle on their spending. And she and her husband partnered up and did this for 3 months, and it changed their lives. Their awareness of the real value of things and the connection between the value of money and the sometimes questionable value of what it is that you're actually buying. She said their spending on frivolous things just nearly went away completely. So I think it's no surprise at all that when there is financial infidelity in a relationship, it creates a constant erosion of trust, which of course results in damaged self-esteem. And the self-esteem damage comes on both sides. Comes for the person that is being dishonest. That's a horrible, horrible weight to have to carry around. But it also damages the self-esteem of the person who's who finds out about it, because now I don't trust this other person. Now I can't even trust my own judgment about choosing a mate that is lying to me. So the impacts, the domino effects are just huge. It leads to depression, anxiety, and then of course the obvious, financial ruin. I mean, bankruptcy and credit scores that take years and years and years to recover from. I was questioning whether I would tell this story or not, but as I mentioned, I was divorced in 2007, and I am remarried now to the man of my dreams. I've been married for about 5 years, and we are exactly the same money personality, which is amazing because my first husband was the reverse of me. And so we're both savers, and that has been tremendously powerful in our relationship. But the absolute source of his prior divorce was financial infidelity. After 9 years of marriage, he discovered for the second time in their relationship that there was $25,000 in credit card debt that he didn't know anything about. He had discovered the same thing 2 years into the marriage and helped resolve the problem and warned her that if it ever happened again, he would be done. And he meant it. And it absolutely destroyed their marriage. And so I think we can't minimize the impact that this has on relationships, because what starts as hiding $20 or $30 from your spouse can evolve into something much, much more devastating. So what's the answer? Well, know that it can take just as much time and effort to heal and regain trust as if it were a sexual infidelity. So don't take it lightly. If you hope to save your marriage, start with these 4 steps to begin the healing process. First, don't attack or accuse what is happening. Get the facts and try to understand how those facts are preventing progress toward your financial goals. Approach it with a problem-solving mentality that you can tackle together as a team, and be prepared to forgive. And I know, there's a large number of counselors and therapists on the line, and we all know how critical the willingness to forgive has to be there. Full transparency. As soon as the truth comes out, there must be a 100% agreement by both parties for absolute financial transparency. Each person sees every statement, has online access, and is free to ask any and all questions about any income or any expenses in any account. If you are the perpetrator, do not get defensive at the questions. You broke the trust, and now you must earn it back. Prove that you're open and willing. And if you're the victim, give your partner a chance to prove that their intentions are honorable. A little understanding can go a long way. The weekly or monthly review meetings, I recommend this for every single couple, regardless of whether infidelity has ever been an issue or not. Every single couple should be having regular meetings each week to print out all your financial stuff, review it together, talk about your goals, establish your working budget, and use it as an opportunity to get on the same page around your finances. If debt is an issue, you might even consider taking a money management course together or buying a book on money management for couples. As I mentioned before, Dave Ramsey is one of the best resources out there for debt recovery. Has a really just a solid plan to get out of debt as quickly as possible. Division of duties. Instead of one person handling all the bill paying, budgeting, and budget tracking, split them up so that you're both involved in the process. Have one person handle the spending and bill paying, and the other person handle the investing and savings. And then after a few months, swap so that you're both capable and competent at both roles. That's not only valuable in building trust, but it's really important for estate planning in the event that either one of you becomes incapacitated. The other person can step right in and not lose a beat. I cannot tell you how many couples I talk to where if the spouse, death is one thing, and we all tend to plan and prepare for death, but what if somebody is incapacitated for 6 months to a year? Are you going to be able to step in and pay the bills? Are you going to be able to know what to do come tax time? All of those things. So this is really important just from an estate planning side as well. Counseling, obviously, probably the most important of those four, is to get at least short-term counseling from a qualified couples therapist. Mistrust has no place in a marriage, and the reasons for that behavior must be delved into, or I can almost guarantee you that it will only happen again. Be ready to dig deep and get to the bottom of it. So at this point, I would like to ask one more survey question. How informed are you about the financial details of your own family finances? And be honest here. Be honest here. Do you feel like you know exactly what's going on? You're right on the same page with your spouse? Or do you sometimes feel like you're kind of in the dark? And it's okay if that's the case. You can be very, open and honest about admitting that and just recognizing that it's an area that you want to be better at. I will tell you that as a financial advisor, of course I manage the money in my family. But I will also tell you that my husband, being the conservative saver that he is, checks our bank accounts online, I would say at least once a week, and we sit down once a month and run our balance sheet, and we look at our retirement accounts, and we look at our financial plan and measure how close we are to meeting our savings goals and our retirement plan and all of that stuff. So we really do keep each other informed. All right, I'm going to go ahead and close this poll. And it's interesting that 40% of the people on this call are actually the money managers in that family, in your family. I'm actually not surprised because of the content of the call, right? The people that are more on top of the money are more interested in this kind of topic. So I challenge the 40% of you that manage the money for your family. Are you sharing it with your significant other? Are you making certain that your significant other knows what's going on and is sharing with you in goal setting, and is participating with you in the budgeting of your family? And for the less than 10% that are minimally involved, this is your call to action. This is your time to really say, yeah, you know what, I need to get on top of this. All right. As professionals, you have a unique opportunity to help couples prevent these issues, as well as repair the damage that's done to save the relationship. Probably the most important prevention is money conversations before you get married, as I mentioned. Every couple should have a thorough financial discussion prior to marriage. How much debt does each person have? How much in assets? Document it so that it's clear what is separate property in the event that anything happens. I work with divorcing couples every day. You don't want to think about that going into marriage, but that's the only way you're going to establish what was your separate property prior to the marriage. This is becoming much, much more of an issue as we have so many people having second and third marriages in their 40s and 50s when they've already got significant assets under their belt. So that's really important. Discuss your financial priorities and how you're going to work together as a couple. You're going to have separate accounts or joint accounts. How are you going to use credit? Do you have agreements about, limits on how much debt you're willing to carry? Other areas to cover, in the conversations include things like, what are the assets, cash, investments, real estate, retirement, credit cards, student loan, medical debts, loans to friends or family members. Now that's a tricky one because they're not usually on paper, right? So you can find out 10 years into a marriage that, oh yeah, by the way, I kind of owe my folks $50,000, that's going to get paid someday in the future. You should each pull your credit reports. And for everyone on this line, if you are not pulling your credit report at least once a year, start doing it right now. Annualcreditreport.com. Annualcreditreport.com is where every single citizen of this country can pull their credit report for free every year. My best recommendation is there are 3 credit bureaus: Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax. Best practice is to pull one every 4 months. And then you're getting each one once a year, but every 4 months you're checking to make sure your identity hasn't been stolen and there's some lady out in Florida, buying property in your name. Talk about salary and deductions. Are you claiming the right kinds of exemptions on your W-2? What are your spending and savings habits? What kind of charitable donations do you want to make as a couple? And then, of course, all the estate documents and end-of-life things that people want to make sure. I do want to share one resource specifically on this screen, money clubs. WIFE.org. WIFE stands for the Women's Institute for Financial Education. And this is two women out of California, Janita Wall and Candace Bear, who created this company. And they sponsor money clubs for women. And so I would encourage any of you, start one of these for a group of your friends. There is curriculum, content, and leaders' guides for 37 modules that start with the simple budgeting tasks and go all the way to how to analyze a mutual fund for your own investing. So it's such a wonderful resource. It's absolutely free and just really a great resource to help women kind of band together and encourage each other to get better with money. Budgeting resources are there, of course, and there's Amazon. A real good book at Money Management for Couples, I think, is a one that would be good. So, in closing, financial infidelity can be absolutely devastating to a relationship, but it does not have to signal the end of that relationship. We have the ability to educate our clients and guide them to a much healthier relationship with their finances, both individually and as a couple. And on a final note, this needs to start with our children. Educate your children and your grandchildren about money management and be an advocate for adding financial education to our high school curriculums. It is my belief that a very high percentage of these issues are created from financial ignorance and could be reduced significantly with some basic financial education for our children. So thank you on that note. I really, really appreciate the opportunity to share this information. This is my contact information. The one last thing I did want to say is I also have become very, very active at training and consulting certified divorce financial advisors around the country. I have a mentoring program that helps financial advisors niche into the divorce business. So if that's something that any of you are interested in, please don't hesitate to reach out to me, and I would love to share more information with you on that. And with that, Rita, I think we can either certainly take any questions that were entered during the proposal or potentially even open the phone lines for some Q&A.
Nancy, if you would go ahead and turn it back to me.
You got it.
Okay, thank you. And I just lost the...
Nope, sorry. That was me. Sorry. You should have it back.
I don't have it back. I have the slides, but I don't have the control panel. Okay, well, thank you so much, Nancy. And Nancy is obviously a big fan of... Thank you. Okay. Welcome. Nancy is a big fan of Dave Ramsey, but that's because she really doesn't know everything, all the wonderful things that you all know about financial social work. So we'll just go with that. And I want to point out that you mentioned, Nancy, that we should start in high school teaching our children. I don't agree. I know, not only do I think, but I know we need to start teaching our children much, much, much earlier.
Oh, agreed. Couldn't agree more. And like the story about when I was 5, I think that's a great time to start teaching the value of money. You bet.
Exactly. And it's very upsetting that in this country we do not require children to learn any real personal finance. There's a few states that have it, but we could do much better. We could definitely do much better. So, okay, before Q&A, I just want to mention for those of you who are new to financial social work that Our certification is a behavioral model. It is self-study and self-paced. You have 6 months to complete it, and there's an online final exam that our students have 2 weeks to complete. And there are 20 CEUs from the National Association of Social Workers that accompany that certification. Our curriculum has been taught at the University of Kentucky since 2011, and financial social work is in the Oxford Press Online Encyclopedia of Social Work. We are also in Wikipedia, and I will be bringing financial social work to Hong Kong in April. I've been invited there, and what's really exciting, and Nancy, you'll appreciate this as well as everyone on the call, is the goal of the work I'll be doing there is to help young people become more financially literate. So that is very exciting. So I hope you have all, here's Nancy's information, contact information, and mine. And I hope that you all have been sending over questions. And I am trying to open that question box. And why I'm having a problem, I don't know, Nancy, but
Well, and I've got it up. Let me address a couple that did come in. Someone asked, can you have more than one login to financial accounts? Yes, you can. Now, it does depend, though. So let me give you an idea. If there is a joint account with 2 people on it, then the bank will let you set up a login tied to each individual email. The other thing is you will find that most bank accounts now, because more and more people are getting bookkeepers and accountants that handle their stuff, you can go into the preferences and give a view-only access to whoever you want. So that's a way you can set up a spouse with access as well. If you don't want to share, I don't know, maybe you've got other things that you don't want to share. So most of the time you can create additional logins. Let's see what else we have here. These are great, let's see here, what was the name? The money clubs are just money clubs, but the website is wife.org, wife.org. And once you're on wife.org, there is a tab specifically for money clubs. Let's see here. And somebody did ask if this is going to be recorded. Yes, there will be a recording, and you'll all get links to the recorded version so that you can share it with friends or family or listen to it at your convenience.
Oh, I see that someone referred to consumer credit counseling. And those agencies are all around the country, although they are predominantly and primarily for debt management planning to reduce debt. Consumer credit counseling agencies can help you to reduce the interest on those debts, which of course helps you to pay them off more quickly. And I'm glad that.
Oh, and a colleague of mine is on the line, and she also pointed out that the idea of getting your credit report every 4 months, that's also an easy way to discover new credit cards that might have been opened without your knowledge. So thank you for that, Mary.
But another really important reason to pull a credit card is to identify identity theft, which is still a very serious and growing problem. And I worked with a couple who had never pulled their credit report, and when they did, not only did they find out that the wife's identity had been stolen, but the husband's identity had been stolen too. So there's many important reasons to pull your credit report and to know what it is, and your FICO score is another piece of that. But you may have to pay for your FICO score, although many credit cards and I'm sure you know that, Nancy, and have seen it today. Many
They're
credit
giving it.
cards, yes, they're giving it for free, and
Well,
that's
and I would share a free resource that I think is wonderful. Also, it's Credit Karma, creditkarma.com. You can get a free credit score all the time. And it offers, and they do that because they sell ads on their site. But sign up for Credit Karma, you can actually pull your credit reports right from Credit Karma, and they give you a constant live update with your credit score. And they've got some great tools on there for, how do I improve my credit score? What are some things that I can do? So that's a great resource as well.
someone just shared that he or she had a client whose ex-husband stole their 12-year-old daughter's identity and trashed her credit. And that I had a client in her 20s, a struggling artist whose parents didn't do it one or two times. They continuously did it, and she would not report them because of her love for them. And
Sure.
it was hard to see and know and watch. And another place where this happens very frequently is with foster care. This does happen
Wow.
in foster care, and when it's a problem.
Yeah.
I do believe there are some ways out there to try to protect your children's identity. I don't have them at my fingertips right now. Someone asked if this webinar would be offered on a rotating basis. We pretty much every month of the year, the Center for Financial Social Work offers a free webinar. Next month for Valentine's Day, we'll be doing one on love and money. If you registered for this webinar, you will get the invitations to future ones. This recording will be sent to all of you in your email boxes. It will be on the Financial Social Work YouTube channel, and we have many recordings there from the past years of our free webinars. So you can share it with other people that way. Someone is thanking you, Nancy, for your expertise, for defining this psychological motivators for financial infidelity and how helpful that was.
Thank you.
God bless you for turning your problem into a solution for others. Isn't that beautiful? Yes. Oh, thank you. Yes, Consumer Financial Protection Bureau has wonderful resources, and we have to save the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. We just have to save them. They're the best thing that's happened to consumers ever. And someone shared that ftc.gov has information about how to safeguard your children's identities. Thank you for that. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Nancy, so much. I know everyone really appreciated this. So many people stayed with us till the very end. You were wonderful,
Thank
Nancy.
you. I really enjoyed it. And I look forward to the opportunity to come back again and do a different topic for you in the future. I would love that.
Well, you took the words right out of my mouth. I think there are other webinars you could do, and we would love to have you. Thanks so much.
Thank you again.
Okay, everybody. Hope to see you back here in the future, and that you will use this information and share it with others so they can all improve their lives too. Nancy, someone wrote twice about dower rights in their state. What is that?
I'm not sure. I saw the same comment, and I'm not sure. So I could think so we should Google that. Something about dower rights, and that couples miss out on that. I think it has to do with home titling. So that's something we'll have to learn about.
Well, thank you for sharing that information to that attendee. Please have a wonderful, beautiful week, a terrific month, and hope to see you back here on Valentine's Day. Bye, everybody.